Alright, what's up everyone? So today, I'm talking about a character that I've recently fallen in love with in Overwatch. Now, I just shot the whole video and found out that OBS wasn't recording my audio in game. So I'm just gonna redo it, and I'm gonna focus on the main points that I want to bring up about this character. One thing I'm gonna point out now is that I have 71 hours on Doomfist. And what this video is for is somebody who's basically just now like really getting in and learning Doomfist, and to some of the people that are new or like interested in learning Doomfist, some of the things that I've learned in these hours of grinding the character and trying to get a better understanding of the character. One thing I'll say now is that I've pretty much only played Doomfist for the last couple of weeks. Sometimes I play support, sometimes I play DPS, but most of the time I'm just playing Doomfist. And I've learned a whole lot with them. And I want to share some of that information with you guys so that you know what you're getting into. Now I don't want this to scare you off. I still think the character is highly worth getting into, and he's very rewarding. I think he's very fun. I think that the movement is really unique, and the way you have to play with them, I feel like it ends up being different than at least a lot of the characters I've played in the game. So let's get into that. One important thing that Doomfist is really going to teach you is to manage your cooldowns. Whether that be your block, slam block, punch, you know, whatever order you end up using your cooldowns, he's going to teach you to manage them. And at least always have at least one up to get out of jail free. One important thing, let me preface this: if you are going to block and you know you're going to get your empowered punch, like you are certain, make sure that you punch first, because your block will, when you get your empowered punch, it'll always instantly give you your punch back. But he will always teach you this. So one important thing that you need to understand is that you need to always at least have one ability
wait for it.
ready. So here in this scenario, I would want my block so that I can time it so I can get when it's up, or if I get fully charged, I can immediately go into my my next punch and maybe get away or secure the kill and just win the fight. So yeah, you're really gonna have to understand and like learn, get a deep understanding of how to manage your cooldowns. Because Doomfist is very reliant on it. You get 40 health per enemy hit with an ability. So yeah, here, hold on, let it go down to 450 real quick. So whenever I punch this bot, it should take me to 490.
Dodge this.
45, so close enough. 30. It's only 35. I thought it was 40. It's only 35 now. But still, that's really important, because that's essentially the bread and butter of your whole kit. Now, you'll see people canceling their slams, getting around. That's fine, but if you know your slam is gonna hit somebody, don't be afraid to just see it through. One thing that I will bring up is that slams are gonna have these moments. Let's see if I can actually get one to happen, where you just have a no reg. It happened earlier when I first showed off the slam and everything, but sometimes when you slam, enemies will not be damaged. Now, I'm not sure what exactly triggers this, but it doesn't happen every time, and it seems less often, but it will happen. There will be times where you will slam, and you'll see the wave like connect. So earlier, if you watched when I slammed, the wave did theoretically run through this bot, but it didn't actually damage him. And I don't think it applies to slow, because I believe slam still applies to slow, but it doesn't apply to slow, or it doesn't at least damage them at all. So it ends up kind of like screwing over some of your combos or your setups. That is just one important thing to look out for. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't happen. It happens less often than you think it does. It really doesn't happen that often. And sometimes even if it does happen, you may be too involved with everything else going on that you won't even notice it. Another important thing to know with Doomfist is that slides. So sometimes, of course, if you've played at least against Doomfist or no Doomfist, you know that the punch is a stun. So hit them into the wall and they're stunned for a little bit, a short amount of time. This can cancel ults, can cancel abilities. It's just like most CC are, with like Orisa and Hog and stuff. It can cancel abilities. Now, one important thing is that sometimes with Doomfist, even when you have your empowered punch and they're going farther, obviously you want them to hit the wall because you want to do the combo where you hit them and you keep walking and you shoot them, and you can get a lot of kills pretty quickly that way. So if you put up like a Hanzo over here and you punch into them and keep hold W and get the headshot, it's a pretty easy way to secure a kill. Now that's not always going to function like that. Sometimes that just won't happen that way, but yeah, if you can get close, that is like the most effective way to get a kill. But sometimes with the terrain, like theoretically in a real game, I think if this would probably be like a curved surface, or like certain surfaces are curved, or certain surfaces even if they are jagged or have like a wall that they should slam into, even if you're looking at them like this way or like slightly canted off to the side of it, even then sometimes like you'll hit the enemies and it should theoretically be a pin, like realistically it should have pinned them. You will get sliders. This is fine. Sometimes you can still capitalize it, but sometimes it will just screw over your punch and kind of just like mess you up. So that's just one important thing to understand. Another important thing to understand is that sometimes it seems like with the Meteor Strike, of course, you will land and if you punch too soon, your empowered punch won't apply. And another thing, let's just get all the bugs out of the way now, I guess. Another thing is if you're going to say you have your empowered punch and you slam, one thing that can happen sometimes is that it happens most of the time, is that if you use an ability while charging up your empowered punch, it'll actually consume the empowerment and you will no longer have an empowered fist. So just look out for that. Just cancel your punch if you're going to use an ability if you have the empowered fist. If you don't, if you're just regular, just do whatever you want. It's fine. Now, obviously this character is a little buggy. I don't want that to dissuade you from playing the character. This character still has really fun movement. Has interesting ways to move around the map, like bumping off things and sliding off funny stuff, and a lot of the cool stuff you see on YouTube and like doing on the servs. I don't think you should give up on the hero though. I just wanted to point those things out because they're important to understand that they are going to happen. It's just a part of the character, and there's gonna be times where you're just gonna get rolled because of matchups like Orisa and Hog. They can be kind of hard and rough on you sometimes, but that is not a good reason to give up. I have a reason for this. So Orisa, not so much Hog, but like Orisa and Sigma share a stun that will knock you out of your block, the Javelin and the Boulder. I bring this up because you can actually still get your empowered punch off them if you time it correctly, or well, do it correctly. So if you block and you just get javelined, you are not going to get your punch. And if you block and just get rocked, you are not going to get a punch. However, if you block and take a little bit of damage, like just even a really small amount, before either of those, and if you get stunned out of it, you'll still get your empowerment, which means that you can still get value, because Doomfist's biggest tool is the empowered fist. So when your fist is going this, that means it's empowered. This is your big, this is when Doomfist really shines. The reason for that is when you have like a character, for example, like we say like Kiriko, or like any of the DPS, or a squishy, even sometimes a tank if they're in like out of position. This turns you into a lethal weapon. Now Doomfist himself, when you're moving around, can still be lethal. The shotgun, as you've seen, does a lot of damage, and if you're like point blank and hitting them in the head, or just hitting them repeatedly, it will kill them. It does a lot. But this, when your punch is empowered, this is when you're really at your most lethal. So as you can see, the punch alone did over half of Kiriko's health. I think it was like 110. and then you can quickly follow it up with like a double headshot,
The future.
or a slam,
Please.
depending on your scenario. But like I said, remember, keep track of your cooldowns. But yeah, that is when Doom is at his most powerful, is when he's got that empowered punch, and you can farm that quite easily. In certain
awaits
comps.
you,
Now, obviously,
Beetle.
certain comps you're not gonna necessarily get it out of. Like Tracers, they don't tend to do enough damage. Like Tracer kind of feels like she doesn't empower your block. She actually ends up fucking off before your block can get empowered, or your punch can get empowered. But you know, like comps like with like soldiers, Hanzos, widows, it's really easy. Bastion, you actually can shut down Bastion kind of well if you actually manage to hit your like you shotgun him a little bit first, maybe punch him and then block and then punch him again, and you pretty much always can even get the kill even if he's in turret form. But yeah, I just want to make this video for some minor things like that. And just point out some of the things that the character does and can happen, which can, you know, be kind of annoying.
Dodge this.
But like I said, I don't want anybody to give up on the character if they're interested, or if they're interested in this kind of dissuaded them. That was not the goal. I still think Doomfist is very, 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 very worth getting into. He's a very fun character. He's unique. He's different. He plays a lot. In my opinion, plays very different than a lot of the other characters in Overwatch. You know, obviously he used to be a DPS and he used to have an uppercut, but now, you know, he no longer does. But I think it makes for a fun scenario. He's very mobile, which can be very appealing. That's, like I said, that's basically the main reason I was interested in Doomfist, was the mobility he provides. The ability to, you know, fly up, like say this is a Widowmaker and your team's having trouble, you can just get up there and just, you know, get her off high ground or hit her into a wall and kill and eliminate the threat. And he's a lot of fun. Like I said, you get 35 HP off of your slam. You get a lot of value off of punching enemies into walls and, like, you know, punishing teams that play super group, but you can also punish them if they play super apart. But like I said, he can have a hard learning curve. Doomfist, and at least from what it kind of feels like, he doesn't really share a lot of the aspects the other tanks do. You know, a lot of things you're gonna learn and do on Doom won't always per se easily transfer over to the other tanks. Now, he's still kind of like a dive tank, so you can still make an argument that if you know how to play a Winston or a Diva, you can still like get an understanding of how to play him. But he just takes some getting used to, and I think he takes a lot of like practice. And I think that he feels like really rewarding. When you're getting like big wall slams, big empowered punches into like 3 or 4 people, basically you can like win team fights if you know what you're doing. But yeah, like I said, the only reason I really wanted to point out those like bugs is that you need to understand that's gonna happen, and you need to understand, like, you know, certain things, like, you know, are gonna happen in the games that are just like, it kind of like, you know, it just is what it is. Some other minor things that I would want to go, I'd like to go over first is like your matchups. A lot of the tanks,
I see one.
like Diva and all these, like a lot of these tanks you'll be generally okay against. You're great against Rein. Rein, you can bait out pins with your with canceling your punch, and get him out of position. Diva can be kind of a nuisance, but you can kind of deal with her if you know what you're doing. You can cancel her. You can cancel her remake, which is really funny. And but she can be quite effective against you. Other Doomfist, you understand that you're going to want to, you're going against another Doomfist, you're going to be wanting canceling him from getting his empowered punch. Very important. Junker Queen ends up working kind of in your favor because they want to stay near her. Orisa is like the main thing that is gonna screw you over the most as Doomfist, because Fortify kind of prevents a lot of the stuff that you want to do. But they like to chase you around, and Javelin can cancel your block, but just know that. So you can either wait till she uses her Javelin or try to take some damage and then get Javelin. Ramattra doesn't really feel like he's that big of an issue. The biggest threat that Ramasho poses to you is that a lot of times he can actually he can kill your supports rather quickly, so you gotta be just kind of vigilant of that. Rein, I feel like you can roll Rein a lot. Like you can break him, like you can stop him from blocking. You can get him to get out of position or mess up and try to pin. You just you run around Rein and he kind of struggles to deal with you. Hog can be kind of a nuisance, but he's and I would argue he's kind of like a gray area. The hook can cancel your power block, which does suck, but you can cancel his heal and prevent teammates from getting severely injured, damaged when they get hooked by punching him. Sigma, I think you also play well into because you you basically ignore or can cancel kinetic grasp, and you can cancel flux if you're spaced enough or high enough up to hit him. And it ends up working a lot in your favor, especially since his primary fire can easily empower your punch, and his rock can also empower your punch. You just have to be careful of being behind the shield, not being getting healed by your supports. Winston, you actually kind of work well against Winston. He wants to dive your supports, and you can maneuver. You have Doomfist's great strength is his mobility. So you can actually chase him around quite frequently and kind of like drive him off. And you can get him in and out of his bubble, which can really disrupt what he's looking to do. Hamster is one of those weird ones. I really wouldn't say like Doom is bad nor good against the Hamster, because they're both kind of in a weird way looking to do similar things. Hamster also wants to dive your supports, and you want to dive his, but you can cancel. You can pretty much destroy all of his mines if they show up, and you can like mess up his his swings stuff by punching, and you can cancel his pile drivers if you hit him right before he hits the ground. Zarya can be a very sketchy matchup for Doom. Bubbles, of course, are gonna really fuck you over if you're diving into backline and she's bubbling your supports. But what you can try to do is bubble bait with, like you do with Rhino, where you would want to fake out your punches into her bubbling, and this would get her down a bubble. And you can try to repeat this as much as you can, or get her to bubble out as much as possible. And this can end up working in your favor or in your team's favor, depending on what's going on. Some quick mentions that I want to bring up before we move on is that Cass and Tracer stickies, so Tracer's ult and Cass's sticky nade, seem to go through Doomfist's punch. I think the Tracer one is intentional. It won't even kill you anyways, because I don't think that does 300. I think it only does 300 damage, so as long as you're blocking, you'll be fine. But the Cass sticky will go through your block. Even though it will, in the kill cam, if you watch it, it'll be stuck to your arm. It'll go through your block. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if that's intentional, like I said, but either way, it's just something useful to know. Another thing, right quickly, that I would like to talk about is characters such as Torbjorn and Mei. So I'm gonna swap to them real quick, and we're gonna talk about that real quick. So with Mei, it seems that when she walls, it seems this could have changed, but at least it still seems that way. When you hit anywhere on the wall, say if they're on top and you punch here, it'll knock them off the wall, and it'll still still do damage. So just keep an eye out for that, because that is a useful tip to know. Another thing is you can cancel her ult. Obviously, you can cancel a lot of ults. Like that. The reason I bring up Torbjorn and Mei is that if Torbjorn is behind his turret, and you punch the turret, and he's here, it'll hit him as well. So that's one important thing to know about Doomfist's punch, is that it seems to be like about a cone in front of him. So
will be
like kind of like a Reinhardt shatter, maybe a little bit wider. I don't know if it's as wide, or it might be a little bit smaller now, but kind of like a Reinhardt shatter. Imagine that in front of Doom when he punches. That's the people will get pushed back. So it's just important to know that. You can weave shots in between all of your abilities as Doomfist to min-max damage. I don't find myself doing this that often, Probably a flaw on my part, but I just want to point that out. And anything else I really want to bring up? Oh, your alt. For new Doomfist players, this is really important. Obviously, your alt is gonna bring you a lot of value. Your alt isn't the strongest alt in the game. In fact, I would argue it's probably one of the weakest alts in the game, or weaker alts. However, you can one-shot like 200 or 250 HP heroes, I believe. I could be a little off on those numbers, but I know you can one-shot 200 HP heroes. This you have to use your alt very. You have to predict with your alt. Meteor Strike ends up being very predictable from the enemies. They can see where you're landing. But if you get them in the epicenter, it will kill them. So
if you can't fly, fall.
So what you need to understand is that you're either gonna land on the support and then like kind of combo that into the other support or another squishy, or you want to quickly ult, because sometimes you're gonna ult and you're gonna like travel from here all the way over there, up there, and you move around and like enemy knows it's coming and they're looking out for your ult, and so the Kiriko can save her Suzu, Bap can save his immortality, Ana can save her sleep, and then hit you when you land. You need to understand that these things are going to happen, and they probably still will happen sometimes. But if you quickly use it, so say like you're a big team fight going on, so we'll go over here with all these bots. So you're in the middle of this. If you ult this, you want to land. Like you want to ult and then land very quickly, even if it doesn't get anyone in the epicenter. You're gonna min-max your amount of health you get. So the max number of HP you can get, like full HP cap you can get is 650. If you get this, you can obviously that increases your sustainability and how long you can stay in the fight. And this obviously going to keep going up if you're utilizing your cooldowns correctly and properly. But yeah, I probably didn't get to go over everything that I wanted to go over. But yeah, guys, that's mostly it. My biggest tip is to not give up. This hero can be very complex, and you just need to practice. I think that he still is kind of weak, but I don't think that makes him a bad. I don't think that being weak is necessarily a bad thing. I would argue that like he's not even necessarily weak. I would argue that more like he's more of a niche hero, where if you know what you're doing, you can get a lot of value out of him. But if you're very inexperienced with the hero, it can seem extremely difficult, if not sometimes impossible, to get value out of this guy. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great night. See you, everyone.